The aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln was authorized in the 1983 budget. It's the fifth Nimitz-class ship equipped with nuclear propulsion. It was built to enhance the military power of the United States, offering exceptional endurance and speed. Construction began at the Newport News shipyard in Virginia. This facility was renowned for its extensive experience in building massive warships. The modular hull of the aircraft carrier was assembled using advanced steel welding techniques designed to withstand extreme stress during high-speed ocean crossings. The design strictly adhered to Nimitz-class standards. The ship's length was 1,092 feet, and its displacement exceeded 100,000 long tons. Everything was engineered for seamless integration of aviation operations with nuclear power. This enabled the ship to conduct prolonged missions at sea without needing to refuel. On November 3, 1984, the keel laying ceremony took place. This marked the official start of the assembly process. The base keel plates were laid and aligned using high-precision instruments to ensure perfect hull hydrodynamics. This phase was preceded by thorough engineering inspections. Designers incorporated lessons learned from building previous aircraft carriers of this class and significantly strengthened the compartmentalization to make the ship highly resistant to damage. The power plant consisted of two A4W pressurized water reactors. The power output of each was approximately 550 megawatts. They were chosen for their proven reliability as they provided a sustained speed of over 30 knots. Because of this, the ship's range was limited only by the crew's food supplies, not by fuel. These reactors, developed by Westinghouse, featured a multi-level safety system. For instance, multiple cooling loops minimized the risks inherent in naval nuclear technology. The hull was constructed in stages using a modular approach. Key components, such as the island superstructure and hangars, were assembled by mid-1987. Over 1,500 short tons of steel were used for this. The quality of the welds was verified through complex tests to guarantee their strength under conditions approximating actual combat. During this same period, control and communication systems were installed on the ship, including early digital fire control systems. These ensured perfect coordination between the reactor compartment and the air wing. Despite challenges integrating massive nuclear components, the project remained precisely on schedule due to strict management at the Newport News shipyard. By 1988, the hull was completely finished, and preparations began for the aircraft carrier's launch. This again demonstrated the shipyard's capability to build multiple supercarriers concurrently. On February 13, 1988, the Abraham Lincoln was christened and launched. The ship's sponsor was Joan Webb, wife of the then Secretary of the Navy, James Webb Jr. After its launch, the ship underwent final fitting out and testing at the shipyard. On October 30, 1989, it was officially delivered to the United States Navy. Even before its formal commissioning, the aircraft carrier completed builder's sea trials. During its initial sea outings on August 28th and from September 10th to the 14th, 1989, the crew tested the propulsion system, the nuclear reactors, and the overall coordination of combat systems at full power. These trials confirmed the ship was fully prepared for service. Helicopter squadrons, such as HS-9, assisted in evaluating its capabilities. On November 11, 1989, the Abraham Lincoln officially joined the active fleet. The ceremony was held at Naval Station Norfolk near Pier No. 12. After this, the ship set out on its first training cruise. The crew honed their skills working with the nuclear plant, reactor safety protocols, and specific aircraft carrier maneuvers before joining Carrier Strike Group 8. This phase involved intensive training for the crew, which consisted of about 5,000 people. Everyone had to operate strictly according to the rigid Navy standards for nuclear-powered ships. The Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, has a full displacement of about 100,000 long tons. Its overall length is 1,092 feet. The width of the flight deck reaches 252 feet, and the waterline beam is 134 feet. 2 nuclear reactors turn 4 propeller shafts, allowing the ship to reach speeds of over 30 knots. The ship's weapons are designed mainly for close-in defense rather than for independent attacks. Its main striking power is its actual air wing. To defend against anti-ship missiles and enemy aircraft, it uses RIM-162 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles, RIM-116 Rolling Airframe missiles, and Mark 15 Phalanx anti-aircraft gun systems. Additional protection is provided by electronic warfare systems and Mark 36 Super RBOC launchers, which deploy heat flares and radar decoys. The ship's crew numbers between 5,000 and 6,000 people. Of these, about 3,200 make up the ship's company, and another 2,480 are the air wing personnel. Supplies on board are enough for 90 days of independent operations. It has everything needed for life: comfortable modular living quarters, galleys, and massive storerooms for food, ammunition, and gear designed for the entire crew and long missions. The Abraham Lincoln is equipped with two Westinghouse A4W pressurized water nuclear reactors. They feed steam to 4 main turbines, which deliver a total output of 260,000 horsepower to the 4 propeller shafts. This allows the ship to travel at a speed of over 30 knots and gives it a practically unlimited cruising range. The only things that limit the aircraft carrier are the supplies of food, aviation fuel, and ammunition. The reactors themselves only need to be refueled once every 20 to 25 years. The reactors are designed with a massive focus on reliability. They feature independent primary and secondary cooling loops. Even if one reactor gets damaged in combat, the ship can keep moving. This is possible thanks to smart compartmentalization and safety systems. Steam from the reactors also turns the turbogenerators, which provide the ship with electricity. There is enough power for the full operation of the radars, weapons, water desalination systems, and catapults. The ship's power plant is highly resistant to damage. The compact reactor design makes maintenance easier, while shielded components and dispersed cables reduce the risk of critical failures during a fight. The main feature of the aircraft carrier is its angled flight deck, measuring 252 feet wide. It is equipped with 4 C-13 steam catapults, which can accelerate aircraft to speeds of over 150 knots. For safe landings, it uses 4 arresting gear wires. The hangar below deck holds up to 64 aircraft and helicopters, including FA-18 Hornet fighters and EA-6B Prowler aircraft. To ensure continuous operations, the ship stores over 3 million gallons of JP-5 aviation fuel on board. Because of this, the aircraft carrier can support about 120 combat sorties every day, and during intense combat, that number can increase. The reliable steam supply from the reactors guarantees that the catapults will work without interruption, even if some of the ship's systems fail. After its commissioning on November 11, 1989, the USS Abraham Lincoln began its initial shakedown operations in early 1990. This included a 4-week training period from January 19th to February 14th in the Puerto Rican operating area. During this cruise, the aircraft carrier took on Carrier Air Wing 8 for flight operations. The crew tested combat systems, fired weapons, and earned certification for the NATO Sea Sparrow missile system. After these trials, the ship went to Newport News Shipbuilding from March 14th to July 22nd. There, crews upgraded equipment, improved living conditions, and fixed issues found during the test runs. In September 1990, the Abraham Lincoln left Norfolk, Virginia for its new home port in Alameda, California, sailing around South America with Carrier Air Wing 11 on board. Along the way, the crew conducted training near Guantanamo Bay from October 4th to the 14th. The ship made port visits to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil from October 15th to the 18th, and Valparaiso, Chile from October 31st to November 4th. It also took part in joint exercises, including Gringo Gaucho 2 with Argentine forces and Blue Sky 3 with the Chilean Navy. The carrier arrived in Alameda on November 20th. This move transferred the ship to the Pacific Fleet during a time when the military was shrinking after the Cold War, relying more on ships that could project power anywhere in the world. The first major deployment for the Abraham Lincoln began on May 28, 1991, heading toward the Western Pacific and Indian Ocean. This mission was rushed due to rising tensions after Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990. but along the way, the carrier was diverted. In June 1991, it led a 23-ship task force for Operation Fiery Vigil. Mount Pinatubo had erupted on June 15th, and the fleet had to evacuate about 20,000 U.S. military personnel and their families from Subic Bay Naval Station and Clark Air Base. At the time, this was the largest peacetime sea evacuation in history. After the rescue, the Abraham Lincoln sailed to the Arabian Gulf. There, Carrier Air Wing 11 flew combat patrols, gathered intelligence, and supported air operations over Kuwait and Iraq. The ship stayed in the region for 3 months before returning to Alameda in November 1991. Throughout the rest of the 1990s, the carrier played a key role in keeping the peace after the Gulf War. In June 1993, the Abraham Lincoln deployed to the Arabian Gulf for Operation Southern Watch. Its planes enforced the United Nations no-fly zone over southern Iraq and proved they could launch precision strikes against Iraqi air defenses. That October, the ship moved to the coast of Somalia for a month. Its aircraft flew patrols over Mogadishu to support United Nations humanitarian missions during Operation Restore Hope. By April 1995, the carrier was back in the Gulf for Operations Southern Watch and Vigilant Sentinel, stopping Iraqi violations and maintaining a strong presence despite United States defense budget cuts. Following these missions, the ship underwent a major overhaul at the Puget Sound Naval Shipyard from late 1995 to January 1997. This update prepared the carrier for a move to its new home port in Everett, Washington, keeping it ready to respond to conflicts anywhere in the world. In July 2002, the American aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln left its home port for a scheduled deployment in the Western Pacific Ocean. However, it was redirected to the United States Central Command Area of Responsibility to support Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and Operation Southern Watch, which enforced the no-fly zones over southern Iraq. On August 22, 2002, the ship arrived in the Arabian Sea. There, its carrier aircraft began maritime patrols and interceptions, helping fight the remnants of al-Qaeda without needing land bases, which could be vulnerable to attacks. As tensions with Iraq grew, in early 2003, the Abraham Lincoln focused on supporting the initial phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom. On March 20, 2003, it launched the first strikes against regime targets, including command centers in Baghdad. Over its 290-day deployment, the ship set the record for the longest consecutive time at sea for a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Its air wing flew 16,500 sorties, dropping 932.5 tons of ordnance on the enemy. These precision airstrikes neutralized air defenses and command infrastructure, severely weakening Iraq's military power. Among the combat sorties, 597 were flown in support of Enduring Freedom and 1,558 for Iraqi freedom. This proved the ability to sustain an incredible operational tempo, during which aircrews logged 31,610 flight hours. The carrier's prolonged presence in the Persian Gulf and the Arabian Sea highlighted the power of the United States Navy. This allowed coalition forces to operate independently of regional bases, deter Iraq, and maintain maritime security. The Abraham Lincoln operated alongside allies, including British and Australian ships. This cooperation made the strikes more effective and helped stabilize the situation after the invasion through intelligence and air support right up until mid-2003. This deployment proved the vital role of the aircraft carrier in deterring the enemy. The high sortie rate, which averaged over 50 per day despite logistical challenges, contributed to the enemy's quick surrender and minimal losses of American equipment. All of this put to rest any doubts about the usefulness of naval forces in prolonged conflicts. In September 2010, the USS Abraham Lincoln departed Naval Station Everett for a 7-month deployment to the Western Pacific and Arabian Sea. Sailing as part of Carrier Strike Group 9, it supported Operations Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan and New Dawn in Iraq during the U.S. troop surge. The aircraft carrier was escorted by the U.S. Cape St. George, the U.S. Shoup, the U.S. Momsen, and the U.S. Halsey. It carried squadrons from Carrier Air Wing 2, including VFA-2, VFA 137, VFA 151, and VFA 34. Together, they conducted over 1,000 sorties, providing close air support against Taliban targets and carrying out maritime security operations. During this time, the ship visited ports like Port Klang in Malaysia, Hid in Bahrain, Jebel Ali in the UAE, Singapore, and Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, emphasizing the U.S. naval presence in contested regions. During a subsequent world cruise from December 2011 to August 2012, the carrier once again crossed the Western Pacific, the Arabian Sea, and the Mediterranean. It continued to support Operation Enduring Freedom alongside escorts like the U.S. Momsen and the U.S. Sterett. This deployment allowed the ship to shift its home port from Everett to San Diego and included bilateral exercises to improve cooperation with allies. Meanwhile, aircraft from the carrier launched counterinsurgency strikes and deterrence patrols. This took place during a time of growing regional tensions, including early Chinese assertiveness in the South China Sea. Port visits to places like Lam Chabang in Thailand, Antalya in Turkey, and various stops in the UAE and Bahrain highlighted the carrier's power projection capabilities. In September 2017, the USS Abraham Lincoln rushed from San Diego to the eastern U.S. coast to help with Hurricane Irma relief efforts. Positioned off the coast of Florida, its MH-60S Seahawk helicopters from Helicopter Sea Combat Squadron 12 delivered food, water, and supplies to hard-hit areas, including Naval Air Station Key West. The crews flew multiple missions to evacuate people and distribute aid before handing operations over to other teams. This response proved the carrier's value in domestic disasters, even though it placed extra logistical strain on its maintenance cycles. The mission balanced urgent humanitarian needs with strategic readiness, but it temporarily pulled resources away from forward-deployed deterrence against rising competitors like China. Throughout the 2010s, the carrier's journeys through the Western Pacific reinforced U.S. commitments to its allies and pushed back against expansionist pressures. Its air and surface units carried out routine presence missions, logging thousands of flight hours and integrating with regional partners. While these efforts successfully built soft power and strengthened alliances, they took place against a backdrop of changing global threats. Humanitarian missions, while vital, risked drawing focus away from high-end warfighting skills, just as China was rapidly modernizing its military. After completing maintenance in San Diego in April 2021, the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln headed for the Western Pacific. There, it took part in large-scale international exercises, making port calls in Guam, the Philippines, and Japan. These operations aimed to strengthen cooperation with allies amid rising tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. The ship demonstrated its ability to counter any threats. In July 2024, the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group left San Diego. It included destroyers, specifically the USS Spruance, and a carrier air wing with F-35C Lightning II fighters. This marked the beginning of a 5-month deployment. By October, the group arrived in the Arabian Sea, where it carried out combat missions in response to Houthi attacks on merchant shipping in the Red Sea. This was part of a broader strategy to deter Iran-backed groups and protect sea lanes. Later, the group moved to the Western Pacific Ocean, where it conducted joint maneuvers with allies. The aircraft carrier made a historic port call in Malaysia, marking the first stop for an American ship of this class in over 10 years. This sent a clear signal of support for freedom of navigation amid Chinese activity in the South China Sea. During this deployment, the carrier air wing flew thousands of sorties, actively using the stealth F-35C fighters to deter potential adversaries. On December 20th, 2024, the vessel returned to San Diego. In January 2026, the Pentagon ordered the Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, joined by the destroyers USS Michael Murphy and USS Frank Emmanuel Peterson Jr., to urgently leave the South China Sea. The ships headed for the Middle East due to escalating tensions with Iran. The transit was expected to take about a week. Throughout March 2026, during the escalation of the conflict as part of Operation Epic Fury, the Iranian military repeatedly claimed to have attacked the Abraham Lincoln. They claim to have used ballistic and cruise missiles as well as drones. There were claims that on March 1st, a ballistic missile disabled the aircraft carrier and that on March 5th, drones attacked the ship in the Gulf of Oman. The Iranians also reported launching coastal cruise missiles near Chabahar from a distance of 155 to 186 miles and near the Strait of Hormuz from a distance of about 211 miles. They even claimed the carrier was forced to retreat. These statements were often accompanied by video footage that later turned out to be AI-generated or simply pulled from video games. The United States Central Command consistently denied these reports, emphasizing that the missiles never even got close to the target and that there was no damage. The Abraham Lincoln continued to operate normally, launching aircraft and releasing evidence of its routine daily operations. No independent source ever confirmed any hits, casualties, or damage. All these unconfirmed claims turned out to be nothing more than Iranian propaganda. On March 25, 2026, a U.S. sailor aboard the Abraham Lincoln sustained an injury while supporting flight operations in the Arabian Sea. The incident was not combat-related, and the injury was not life-threatening. The sailor was brought ashore for treatment, where their condition remains stable, and the circumstances of the incident are under investigation. The strike group continues to carry out combat missions as part of Operation Epic Fury. By late March, the aircraft carrier remained on station in the Arabian Sea, maintaining full combat readiness despite all the claims of attacks. The USS Abraham Lincoln underwent its refueling and complex overhaul, or RCOH, from March 28, 2013 to May 15, 2017 at the Huntington Ingalls Industries Newport News shipbuilding facility in Virginia. This extended the operational life of the carrier by an additional 25 years for a total of over 50 years. This overhaul, conducted under a $2.6 billion cost-plus incentive fee contract awarded in April 2013, included refueling the two A4W nuclear reactors, replacing reactor cores, and modernizing propulsion components such as shafting, propellers, and rudders. Key structural enhancements included hull repairs, tank replacements, and upgrades to piping, ventilation, electrical systems, and combat direction centers to match the capabilities of later Nimitz-class carriers. Radar systems were improved with the installation of the SPS-48E3D air search radar antenna on the island superstructure, enhancing detection ranges and integration with modern sensors. Flight deck modifications supported compatibility with the F-35C Lightning II, including reinforced surfaces and electromagnetic compatibility adjustments, enabling the carrier to conduct initial fleet qualifications for the stealth fighter in December 2017. Following redelivery, the Abraham Lincoln completed sea trials starting May 9, 2017, validating propulsion, navigation, and systems performance over 49.5 months of work. Incremental post-RCOH upgrades included enhanced communication suites and cyber defense hardening to counter evolving electronic warfare threats, prioritizing life cycle extension through empirical testing of reactor output and structural integrity over short-term fiscal constraints. These modifications ensured sustained power projection, with the refueled reactors enabling approximately 25 years of operations without refueling. Scheduled overhauls and readiness issues. The USS Abraham Lincoln, as a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, undergoes scheduled planned incremental availabilities, or PIAs, approximately every 2 to 3 years to conduct routine maintenance, inspect critical systems, and address wear from deployments. These periods typically last 6 to 9 months and involve collaboration between the ship's force and shipyard personnel to ensure operational readiness without major overhauls. For instance, in early 2021, the carrier completed its largest PIA to date on schedule, accumulating over 2.6 million man-hours of work, which enabled a prompt return to training and deployment cycles. Similarly, a 6-month phased maintenance availability reached its midpoint in June 2023, focusing on system upgrades and certifications essential for sustained at-sea operations. A notable readiness challenge occurred in late 2022 when bilge water contaminated the ship's potable water supply. This was due to corrosion in a carbon steel vent header pipe connected to a storage tank, allowing ingress during routine operations. Investigations attributed the issue to procedural lapses in maintenance inspections and inadequate monitoring of aging infrastructure, rather than systemic design flaws. The contamination was detected promptly, leading to a 2-week remediation process involving tank flushing, pipe repairs, and water quality testing. After this, the carrier resumed full operations without long-term impacts on crew health or mission capability. These incidents reflect broader Nimitz-class maintenance trends, including accelerated wear from high operational tempos and occasional supply chain constraints delaying parts availability. Yet, the Lincoln has consistently demonstrated resilience with rapid post-repair recoveries. Following the 2022 event and subsequent phased maintenance availabilities, the carrier achieved certification for deployments, such as its 2025 Pacific operations. This underscored effective engineering responses that restore sortie generation rates to baseline levels typical for the class, which is around 120 to 150 daily aircraft launches when fully operational. Navy-wide data indicates that, while aging hulls pose ongoing challenges, targeted interventions like enhanced corrosion monitoring have minimized downtime, with carriers like the Lincoln returning to over 90% material readiness within months of identified issues. On November 25, 1994, an F-14A Tomcat fighter piloted by Lieutenant Kara Hultgreen crashed. While attempting to land on the deck of the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln off the coast of Southern California, the aircraft lost speed and fell into the Pacific Ocean. The pilot died, but the radar operator was able to eject safely. The cause of the tragedy was an engine compressor stall. On August 31, 2021, during routine training about 60 miles off the coast of San Diego, an MH-60S Seahawk helicopter crashed. 5 crew members died. A Navy investigation revealed that a damper hose ruptured in flight. This caused severe vibration and the complete loss of the main rotor. No pilot errors or rule violations were found. After this incident, the fleet implemented large-scale inspections and improved the maintenance of these helicopters, which helped noticeably reduce the number of similar accidents. On March 1, 2026, the Iranian military claimed they fired 4 ballistic missiles at the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the Persian Gulf. However, the American fleet did not confirm any attacks or damage to the ship. On March 5th of that same year, Iran again claimed an attack on the aircraft carrier, this time using drones and missiles in the Gulf of Oman. The United States once again denied these claims. Overall, operations on aircraft carriers like the Abraham Lincoln maintain a historically low accident rate. Thanks to new technologies and simulator training, the number of serious accidents in naval aviation decreased by 40% from 2013 to 2022. Although flying from a carrier deck always carries high risks, such tragic incidents are rare. After every accident, the Navy focuses on engineering solutions and thorough data analysis to avoid similar situations as much as possible in the future. In July of 1998, during a port visit to Hong Kong, 10 sailors from the USS Abraham Lincoln, 3 women and 7 men, all junior enlisted, were administratively discharged. This followed a group sexual incident at an off-duty hotel party on July 6th. The Naval Criminal Investigative Service launched an investigation after one woman reported a sexual assault. However, she was also discharged for her own inappropriate behavior that night. The 10 sailors faced non-judicial punishment for adultery, sodomy, and fraternization. They received reductions in rank, 60 days restriction to the ship, and lost half their pay for 2 months before being separated from the Navy. An 11th sailor faced a potential court-martial for sexual assault charges, showing that the Navy applies the same standards regardless of who makes the complaint. Navy leadership, including the carrier commander, Captain J.J. Quinn, called the event an isolated incident. They pointed out that out of a crew of more than 4,600, no civilians were involved, and the rest of the personnel acted professionally during the visit. Critics argued this showed the broader challenges of enforcing conduct codes overseas, especially with integrated crews following the 1993 gender policies. But defenders noted that these cases are extremely rare during high-tempo deployments with long separations and limited shore time. The discharges lined up with a strict zero-tolerance policy for fraternization and illicit acts. At the same time, debates were happening, like Secretary of Defense William Cohen's proposal to decriminalize adultery, highlighting the tension between military discipline and changing social norms. In January 2023, a sailor named Bailey Sremowski, assigned to the Abraham Lincoln, was federally charged with distributing fentanyl-laced Percocet. This tragically led to the overdose death of a shipmate who was on leave and the non-fatal overdose of another sailor. This case highlighted the ongoing risks of drug issues in a massive ship environment. Investigations revealed that pills were being passed around among crew members, leading to indictments for knowingly endangering others with tainted drugs. While incidents like this sometimes make people question the command's vigilance during routine operations, they remain rare outliers in a crew of over 5,000. The Navy's response focused on quick investigative action rather than blaming a systemic failure. The aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln has received numerous awards for its outstanding combat performance and participation in humanitarian missions. These include several Battle Efficiency Awards, which the U.S. Navy presents for top performance in training, maintenance, and mission readiness. The ship earned its first such honor in 1991, shortly after entering service. Later, the carrier won this award in 1994, 97, 2000, 2003, 2006, 2010, 2013, 2019, and 2020. This proves that the Carrier Strike Group consistently maintains the highest standards. For its role in Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, the ship received a Navy Unit Commendation. At the time, its aircraft flew over 4,300 combat sorties, dropping more than 1,600,000 pounds of ordnance on enemy targets. This helped dismantle the enemy command infrastructure. The award highlighted the surgical precision of the air wing strikes, since 90% of close air support and interdiction missions were completely successful. Additionally, in the early 2000s, during the global war on terrorism and Operation Enduring Freedom, the Lincoln earned another honorable commendation. The vessel remained at sea continuously for over 100 days, and its aircraft flew more than 7,000 sorties to support coalition forces in Afghanistan. The carrier also actively helped victims of natural disasters. In 2010, it took part in the relief operation following the earthquake in Haiti. The crew delivered over 19 million pounds of humanitarian aid, and the medical staff on board treated more than 10,000 patients. All these awards confirm the immense contribution of the Abraham Lincoln to the success of military and humanitarian missions. And these are not just words, but real results, backed by thousands of combat sorties and millions of pounds of delivered cargo. The American aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln clearly demonstrates the strategic value of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers for maintaining sea control and deterring adversaries. This was especially evident during its 2019 deployment in the United States Central Command Area of Responsibility amidst a growing Iranian threat, including drone and mine attacks on merchant vessels. The Carrier Strike Group stayed in the Middle East for about 220 days. This forward presence helped prevent further Iranian aggression through continuous support of air operations. It showed American resolve without having to rely on vulnerable land bases. The success of the mission is proven by the fact that no major escalations occurred during this time. Operations like this highlight the role of aircraft carriers in securing sea lanes and projecting power ashore. They also help build interoperability with allies, such as the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, through joint exercises that strengthen collective defense. Some critics think aircraft carriers are just too vulnerable to asymmetric threats. You hear this a lot in academic and media circles that are skeptical about massive naval spending, but they completely ignore real-world experience. The Abraham Lincoln Strike Group successfully operated near enemy missile engagement zones, for example, right near Iranian coastal defense systems. During that time, they never took a single successful hit, and the high rate of combat sorties only proved how effective they really are. Nimitz-class aircraft carriers in heavy combat can launch up to 125 strike sorties every single day. They can deliver precision munitions weighing well over 1,000 pounds, much more effectively than land-based aircraft. Land bases often end up being less effective because of political limits on where you can put them, not to mention their own logistical vulnerabilities. This acts as a massive force multiplier and totally debunks the claims that carriers are ineffective. The ratio of sorties flown to the actual threats they face far outweighs the risk of losing the ship. In modern conflicts with peer adversaries, not a single aircraft carrier has ever been sunk. Their deterrence value is backed up by actual operational staying power, not just theoretical models. When competing with countries like China, the recent deployments of the Abraham Lincoln through the Indo-Pacific region, including operations in the South China Sea, really reinforce United States naval superiority. It demonstrates a clear resolve to stand up against territorial ambitions. Operating two carriers at the same time reassures allies and seriously complicates enemy plans in disputed territories. These missions highlight how aircraft carriers remain absolutely essential for distributed maritime operations. Their air wings integrate with unmanned systems and long-range strike weapons to counter anti-access and area denial strategies. This gives them a level of strategic flexibility that stationary infrastructure simply does not have.